Daniel Hernandez was born on May 8, 1996, in the Bushwick neighborhood of Brooklyn, to a Mexican immigrant mother from Puebla and a Puerto Rican father. From the very beginning, his life was shaped by the restless energy of New York City's streets. He spent his childhood navigating crowded subway platforms, cramped apartment hallways, and block parties where music spilled out of open windows. As a child, he drew on every bit of that intensity, scribbling drawings of skulls and symbols in the margins of his school notebooks. By the time he reached his teenage years, he had discovered rap music as both refuge and outlet. He listened to legends like Biggie Smalls and Jay-Z, internalizing their cadences and narratives, even as he felt drawn to push boundaries in his own way. By around 2016, Daniel began to perform under the name Tekashi 6ix9ine, a persona that fused shock value with cryptic symbolism. He emblazoned his body with the number 69, tattooed across his shoulders, arms, and even the sides of his face. He dyed his hair in flamboyant colors, switching from electric blue to hot pink to every shade of the rainbow in rapid succession. His early tracks were raw, unfiltered expressions of rage and ambition laid over minimal, punishing beats. At underground shows in Brooklyn basements, he was notorious for jumping into the crowd and inciting mosh pits, feeding off the reckless energy around him. By the time he released his first singles, he had already cultivated an image that balanced between street credibility and social media provocation. In late 2017, Tekashi released the single Gummo, which would change everything. The track opened with a menacing chant of repeated syllables, then plunged into a snarling barrage of drums and bass. His voice, equal parts fury and bravado, demanded attention. Within days, Gummo began racking up streams on digital platforms and climbing into the upper reaches of the nation's charts. By early 2018, it had peaked within the top 15 on the Billboard Hot 100 list, an extraordinary achievement for an artist with no major label backing. Overnight, Tekashi 6ix9ine became a lightning rod for curiosity. Music blogs flooded with think pieces debating his authenticity, while fans launched viral challenges on social media, dancing and lip-syncing along to his aggressive refrain. Following Gummo, he unleashed a string of singles, tracks titled Kuda, Kiki, and Gotti, all of which found their way onto his first mixtape titled Day 69. Released in mid-2018, Day 69 debuted within the top 5 on the Billboard 200 charts, selling tens of thousands of copies in its first week. Critics were divided. Some praised his unflinching energy and punk rap ethos, while others dismissed it as empty noise designed purely for social media clicks. Even so, few could deny the momentum he had sparked. On stage, he would leap into the crowd at sold-out clubs, fists pumping as bodies surged around him. Off stage, he cultivated feuds with established rappers, trading insults on Twitter and Instagram, creating an aura of conflict that only amplified the frenzy around him. Beneath the veneer of viral stardom, however, was a darker reality. Tekashi had forged ties to the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, an East Coast faction of the larger United Blood Nation street gang. According to federal investigators, he paid protection, taxes to the gang, supplied firearms, and even participated in violent acts designed to elevate his standing within that circle. He was seen flashing the gang's hand signs in music videos and photographs, a fact that police took note of long before his arrest. For Tekashi, the alliance served a dual purpose. It cemented his reputation as someone who lived the life he described in his music, while also granting him real-world muscle and resources as his fame grew. On November 18, 2018, federal agents carried out a dramatic early morning raid on Tekashi's Manhattan apartment. In that swoop, law enforcement arrested him alongside his manager, Ismail Shadi Jordan, and 10 other alleged gang members. They were charged with racketeering conspiracy, firearms offenses, and violent crimes, including armed robbery and attempted murder. The indictment alleged that Tekashi had coordinated kidnappings and participated in shootings on behalf of the gang. The weight of the evidence was overwhelming. Wiretapped conversations, surveillance footage, and eyewitness testimony painted a portrait of an artist deeply enmeshed in organized crime. The charges carried the possibility of life in federal prison, a fate that hung over him like a guillotine. Faced with those stakes, Tekashi made a decision that would forever define his legacy. In February of 2019, he agreed to cooperate fully with federal prosecutors, pleading guilty to 1 count of racketeering conspiracy. His decision to become a government witness, testifying against his former associates, shocked the hip-hop world. In detailed testimony, he recounted kidnappings of rivals, the purchase of assault rifles, and shootings meant to enforce the gang's dominance. His cooperation led to the convictions of key members, including his own manager, Shotty. For prosecutors, he was a treasure trove of insider information. For rap purists, he became the ultimate example of betrayal, earning the derisive label of snitch. On December 18, 2019, Judge Paul Engelmeyer sentenced Tekashi 6ix9ine to 2 years in federal prison. With credit for the 13 months he had already served behind bars, plus good behavior, the judge effectively imposed only a few more weeks of imprisonment. In addition, he handed down 5 years of supervised release, a fine of $35,000, and 300 hours of community service. Because Hernandez suffered from severe asthma, and as the COVID-19 pandemic ravaged crowded prison facilities, both his attorneys and the government agreed he should serve the remainder of his sentence under home confinement. In April of 2020, Tekashi was fitted with an ankle monitor and transferred to a modest home halfway across the country, where he remained until the summer. Almost as soon as he was free from physical bars, Tekashi 6ix9ine returned to the studio. In August of 2020, he released the single Gooba, a track that exploded onto the charts, debuting within the top 3 of the nation's most prestigious ranking of popular songs. Barely a month later, he dropped Trolls, his collaboration with superstar rapper Nicki Minaj. That song debuted at number 1, granting him his first chart-topping hit and solidifying his status as a streaming powerhouse. Even more remarkably, his second studio album, titled Tattletales, debuted in the top 5 on the Billboard 200. It was a rare moment in music history, an artist who had just emerged from federal home confinement, reclaiming the commercial heights he had scaled in his youth. Under the terms of his supervised release, Tekashi's freedom came laced with strict conditions. He had to surrender his passport, obtain probation officer approval for every performance, and subject himself to regular drug testing. He was confined by a nightly curfew enforced by an ankle monitor, and he was forbidden from associating with known gang members. Every month he reported in person to his probation officer to account for his whereabouts and activities. Violation of any condition could trigger a swift return to prison, an ever-present reminder that his liberty remained fragile. On October 29, 2024, those conditions shattered. Federal marshals swooped in during a New York promotional event and arrested him for alleged violations of his release terms. The charges stemmed from unauthorized travel to Las Vegas for a performance, missed drug tests, and a positive test for methamphetamine, though Tekashi publicly blamed the outcome on prescribed Adderall. In court, Judge Engelmeyer ordered him back to jail for 45 days, extended his supervised release by an additional year, and reinstated home incarceration. By April of 2025, new allegations had surfaced. He was accused of tampering with his ankle monitor, cutting off its signal, and resisting probation checks. A court hearing set for late April loomed as a critical moment, one that could send him back behind bars for good. As if the criminal saga were not enough, civil litigation piled on. In early 2021, a dancer in Miami sued Tekashi after he allegedly struck her in the head with a champagne bottle during a performance, an act that left her with a serious traumatic injury. The court awarded her a $10 million judgment by default when Tekashi failed to appear in court. Attempts by her attorneys to seize his high-end car and his Los Angeles property have encountered legal roadblocks, but the judgment still stands. Meanwhile, a Brooklyn tattoo artist filed suit accusing him of defamation, claiming Hernandez had told producers that the artist's work stemmed from a personal addiction, a statement that harmed the artist's reputation. Later, in late 2024, his ex-girlfriend, a rising singer herself, sued him for alleged physical, emotional, and financial abuse. Those claims added yet another layer of complexity to a public life already defined by headlines. His story has been immortalized in documentaries on major streaming services. In 2023, Hulu released a 4-part series titled 6ix9ine, The Saga of Danny Hernandez, combining archival footage, interviews with prosecutors, and glimpses of his New York upbringing. Critics praised its immersive narrative, but noted its reliance on limited access to key players. Around the same time, Showtime offered Supervillain: The Making of Tekashi 6ix9ine, blending behind-the-scenes marketing footage with commentary from industry insiders. That version took a harsher tone, questioning the moral implications of his decision to cooperate with law enforcement. Both series underscored the cultural fissure his life represented, and both drew millions of viewers eager to witness the rise and fall melodrama. Public reaction has remained as polarized as ever. Loyal fans defend his resilience, applauding his unapologetic return to music and his refusal to be silenced by critics. Detractors in the hip-hop community scorn him as disloyal and opportunistic, reviling his decision to trade loyalty for leniency. On social media, each new announcement, whether a song release, a court date, or a social media post, becomes a lightning rod for heated debate. For some, Tekashi's narrative is a cautionary tale of fame's dangers. For others, it is an unstoppable saga of reinvention and survival. Now, with the spring of 2025 in full bloom, Tekashi 6ix9ine stands at another crossroads. His supervised release is scheduled to conclude by the end of the year, assuming no further violations. Yet an April court hearing will determine whether he has honored the terms imposed upon him or whether he faces renewed confinement. Simultaneously, he is rumored to be preparing new music, a project that could hinge entirely on approval from his probation officers. Will he manage to clear his name, rebuild his brand, and step onto stages once more without the threat of remand hanging over him? Or will each misstep drag him deeper into the justice system he narrowly escaped? Daniel Hernandez's life reads like a novel written in real time, full of plot twists, betrayals, and uneasy alliances. From the vibrant graffiti-scrawled walls of Bushwick to the solemn hallways of federal courthouses, his path has been anything but straight. As he moves forward, sometimes in shackles, sometimes in limelight, his story refuses to reach a neat conclusion. The question that echoes across concert halls and courtrooms alike remains the same. Is he done yet? Only the next chapter, penned by fate and by law, will tell whether he will finally close the book on this dramatic tale or continue writing it under the blistering glare of public scrutiny.